When you're born, the world celebrates. When you live, the world sells. And when you die, the world still sends you a bill. They call it the funeral industry. But behind the velvet curtains and soft music lies a machinery of profit so efficient, so polished, that it turns grief itself into a business model. Every year, this quiet empire generates tens of billions of dollars. From the casket to the catering, from flowers to financing, every choice you, or the ones you leave behind, make is already part of a finely tuned revenue chain, and it begins long before the final day. They call it pre-need planning. It sounds gentle, almost caring. Secure your family's future. Plan today, rest easy. But hidden inside the compassion is a contract. You're not just preparing for death, you're prepaying for it. Across the United States alone, millions have already signed these plans, feeding a network of companies that invest, trade, and profit on funds meant for your farewell. Money you think is resting in trust often isn't. It moves, quietly, through portfolios, stocks, and corporate mergers. Here's the twist. The business of death doesn't wait for you to die. It's an ongoing market, living, breathing, expanding. And like any market, it has sales targets, margins, and quarterly goals. The average funeral in America now costs more than a used car. A burial plot? Real estate with eternal tenants priced by scarcity. Even the stone that bears your name can have a markup worthy of fine jewelry. When grief hits, logic collapses. Families aren't price comparing, they're pleading for peace. And that's when emotion becomes currency. Psychologists who study consumer behavior call this grief economics. It's the science of selling during sorrow, when people are at their most vulnerable and most willing to agree. A funeral director doesn't need to persuade you with words. The silence of loss does it for them. Every detail, the lighting, the language, the music, is part of a script written to convert heartbreak into payment plans. It's not cruelty, it's commerce. And commerce, by definition, never sleeps. But the story doesn't end with the funeral home. Because there's another layer, a quieter, more invisible player: insurance. Life insurance was once meant to protect families from hardship. Today, it's one of the largest financial sectors on the planet, managing trillions of dollars in premiums. For some firms, your life and death is an investment instrument. The older you get, the more predictable you become. Mortality tables, actuarial models, risk portfolios, the data of death fuels entire markets. Even investors can buy into life settlement funds, pools of policies sold by seniors for cash, later collected when those seniors pass away. It's legal, it's efficient. And it means somewhere, someone is quietly profiting from the timing of human endings. You might think this is morbid, but to the system, it's simply math. Because as long as death remains inevitable, it remains profitable. This is not about villains in dark rooms. It's about structures so normalized we barely notice them. Interest accrued on grief, dividends paid on loss, marketing campaigns built around mortality. A civilization that once feared death has learned to monetize it instead. And if that sounds shocking, remember, industries evolve wherever emotion is strong and oversight is weak. Love, fear, hope, and now, loss. So tonight, as we pull back the curtain on this shadow economy, remember this isn't just about the end of life. It's about how our society has turned even the final goodbye into an invoice. Stay with me till the end of this journey, because what's coming next will make you question not just how we die, but how we live. Show some love before we go deeper. Hit that subscribe button, like, and share. Help this story reach more eyes. Because the deeper we dig, the more you'll realize. The grave might be the end of life, but it's never the end of business. They call it a celebration of life. But behind the velvet curtains and hushed tones, a funeral is also a performance, and every performance has a price tag. Welcome to the hidden world of the funeral economy, where grief and business intersect in ways you've never imagined. The modern funeral home doesn't just sell services for the deceased, it sells comfort to the living. It packages our loss in polished mahogany, soft velvet, and gleaming chrome. It offers us a sense of control when everything feels chaotic. And as it turns out, that feeling of control, that comfort, can be incredibly expensive. Take a walk through a showroom. You'll see caskets lined up like luxury cars, with price tags discreetly tucked away. A basic model might cost as much as a week-long vacation. An ornate one? That could set you back as much as a new car. Cremation, which was once seen as a simple, humble alternative, has now been transformed into a tiered system, complete with upgrades and decorative urns priced like designer handbags. Let's look at the invoice. You have the embalming, a process developed during the Civil War for transporting soldiers, now billed as a standard service involving chemicals, time, and tradition. Then you add the viewing rooms, the floral arrangements, the printed programs, the catering for guests. Every single line item tells the same story. Grief is being translated directly into revenue. In most American cities, a simple funeral can run you anywhere from $7,000 to $12,000. In major metropolitan areas, that number climbs even higher. But here's something you might not see. Many of those local, family-owned funeral homes you trust are actually owned by a handful of massive corporations. Over the past few decades, these conglomerates have been quietly buying up small, independent parlors. They keep the old, familiar names to maintain that sense of community trust, but behind the scenes, they unify pricing and streamline operations for maximum profit. They call this process consolidation. To a grieving family, it feels like they're dealing with a trusted neighbor. To the shareholders of these corporations, it's all about scalability and market share. A huge part of the profit margin comes from one simple, unchangeable fact. Funerals are urgent purchases. There's no time to shop around for a second quote, no opportunity to look for a coupon code, and certainly no headspace for calm, rational reflection. Urgency creates the perfect environment for profit to flourish. On the sales desk, you'll find a brochure that reads, "Your loved one deserves the best." The sales staff are trained in empathy, whether it's real or rehearsed, to guide you through your options. The language they use is carefully chosen. It's not, "Would you like to purchase the premium casket?" Instead, it's, "Wouldn't you like to honor them properly?" This frames the decision as a moral one, not a financial one. It's a purchase order disguised as a final act of love. Now let's be clear, there is nothing inherently wrong with wanting a beautiful farewell. Rituals are important. But somewhere on the line between providing a meaningful ritual and maximizing revenue, compassion can become a commodity. The real question isn't whether people should pay for a funeral. It's why the prices are so often hidden behind a veil of emotion and tradition. While families are mourning, a massive logistical operation is in motion. Distributors are coordinating shipments of coffins from factories overseas. The metals, woods, and fabrics are sourced from all over the globe, converging into a product line with quarterly sales goals. Believe it or not, there are even funeral industry trade shows, entire conventions dedicated to death care innovation. You'll find polished booths showcasing everything from biodegradable coffins to LED-lit urns and memorial drones that scatter ashes from the sky. Executives in suits mingle over cocktails, discussing market trends in bereavement. This is the side of the story that's rarely told. The quiet, methodical normalization of profiting from one of life's most difficult moments. And the system defends itself brilliantly. After all, every transaction is voluntary. Every family chooses the services they receive. But are choices made in the depths of sorrow truly free choices? And then comes the financing. Funeral loans, deferred payment plans, and credit lines advertised with slogans of sympathy. The industry understands that in a moment of grief, emotion often outweighs affordability. And the banks know that emotion pays interest. Some of these payment plans can stretch on for years, meaning a family can still be paying for that final goodbye long after the flowers have wilted and the sympathy cards have been put away. When critics question the high costs, the industry insiders have a ready reply. Dignity has a price. But is it dignity that costs so much, or is it logistics? Logistics are scalable. Logistics can be made more efficient. Dignity, on the other hand, is priceless. Cremation was once the straightforward, cheaper path. Now it's become a design space. You can add on virtual memorials, have ashes turned into gemstone keepsakes, or even live stream the ceremony for relatives who can't attend. Technology has turned ashes into algorithms, where every added pixel represents another payment option. Behind every word of condolence, there's a contract. Behind every beautiful bouquet, there's a bill. And behind every expression of comfort, there's a company tracking its conversion rates. The business of death doesn't end when the funeral service is over. If you follow the money, You'll discover that the same key players, from insurance underwriters to casket suppliers, are all interlocked in a complex web of ownership that stretches from the small-town parlor on your corner all the way to Wall Street portfolios. To the financial market, death is the ultimate predictable demand. It's steady, it's recession-proof, and it's completely immune to changing trends. And that, in the world of business, makes it incredibly valuable. But the story doesn't end there. Because when the funeral is over, another industry kicks in. One that promises security for the living by capitalizing on our deepest fears. Long before the flowers wilt, the real numbers start moving. Because in the modern economy, even mortality has a market. They call it life insurance, a promise that when you're gone, those you love will be safe. It sounds noble, human, almost sacred. But behind the kindness of the commercials lies a calculus older than empathy. At its core, insurance is not charity. It's probability turned to profit, the art of predicting how long you'll live and betting on it with precision. Every policy you sign feeds a database: your age, health, occupation, geography. Add millions of lives together and you get an empire of predictability. That predictability is power. The companies that hold it don't wait for tragedy. They trade on expectation. Premiums become rivers of capital, pooled and invested in markets worldwide. While you pay for peace of mind, your peace funds someone else's portfolio. Actuaries, the mathematicians of mortality, model every heartbeat into percentages. They don't ask who will die, only when enough will die to balance the books. When they're right, profits rise. When they're wrong, they adjust the tables. Policies are sold with warmth. Family photos, laughter, a handshake across a desk. But read the fine print: exclusions, delays, contestable clauses. In a world built on risk, the smallest definition can decide whether grief receives comfort or correspondence. Then comes reinsurance, insurance for insurers. Global giants backstop local firms, bundling risk like mortgages. These bundled obligations are traded, rated, and securitized. Somewhere in a vault, your promise of security may already exist as an asset in another investor's spreadsheet. The illusion works because it feels personal, but the machine is systemic, a network of banks, funds, and algorithms that see death not as a tragedy, but as a timeline. They profit from stability, from knowing roughly how many of us will cross the line this quarter, this decade, this fiscal year. And the marketing never stops. Protect your legacy. Love is eternal. Insure it today. Each slogan converts emotion into a contract. Each signature extends the reach of a trillion-dollar ecosystem that thrives quietly beneath compassion's surface. There's a second layer: investment-linked policies. You're told your premiums work for you, but for you often means for them first. Fees nibble at returns. Complexity hides in acronyms. By the time the truth is clear, decades have passed. Still, the illusion endures because it satisfies a deeper fear: the fear of leaving others unprepared. And fear is the most renewable resource of all. To be clear, not all of it is manipulation. Many families are genuinely protected. Many employees believe in what they sell. But systems evolve beyond intention. When billions of dollars rely on the constant inflow of premiums, even compassion becomes a commodity, a line item. At conferences in glass towers, executives speak in careful euphemisms: persistency ratios, mortality yield, loss experience. Every term sanitizes the subject. They aren't discussing lives. They're discussing data sets. And in that translation, humanity becomes arithmetic. The cycle feeds itself beautifully. When economies falter, fear rises. When fear rises, policy sales soar. In this system, crisis is good business. The irony is profound. We buy policies to feel safe from uncertainty, but the certainty of our payments is what keeps the system alive. Think about it. Every month, millions pay into a promise that will only be kept when they're gone. And the longer they live, the more profitable that promise becomes. So what began as protection slowly transforms into prediction, and prediction into profit. That's the insurance illusion. And it's only one branch of an even larger tree, because beyond the paperwork lies the next tier: trust management, estate handling, probate fees, and legal intermediaries. The the quiet bureaucracy that turns death into documentation. Stay with me. We're going deeper, into the part of the system that continues long after the funeral ends and the insurance check clears. That's where the real money circulates. They say death is the great equalizer, but what happens after? You die is anything but equal. In our modern world, your death doesn't just trigger grief, it triggers a machine. A quiet, complex bureaucracy designed not to mourn, but to process. Paperwork becomes the new ritual. Stamps replace candles, and somewhere between your last will and your bank account, profit finds its way back into the system. Welcome to the afterlife of economics. When someone passes away, the system doesn't rest. Instead, it begins a carefully choreographed dance of fees, filings, and final settlements. Lawyers, accountants, executors, and financial institutions all step forward, each playing their part in a performance as old as money itself. This isn't necessarily out of malice, but out of a structured necessity. Every signature has a price, every delay has a cost, and those costs, multiplied by millions of deaths every year, create an industry that quietly thrives on the logistics of loss. Let's talk about a word most people never hear until it's too late. Probate. It's the official legal process that validates a will and distributes a person's estate after they're gone. But behind its dignified legal veneer lies a system that methodically funnels wealth through the hands of intermediaries. In the US alone, probate-related fees and court costs can swallow anywhere from 3 to 7% of an estate's total value. Now, multiply that by the trillions of dollars in generational wealth being transferred, and suddenly, death isn't just an ending, it's an economic engine. This process is slow, and that's by design. Files move from one office to another, with months often stretching into years. And during that time, the assets, your savings, your investments, even your home, are often held, managed, or secured by financial institutions. They earn interest on what you left behind, while your family waits for the green light. Every delay, every procedural requirement, adds one more transaction, one more billable hour. A person's death becomes a project, and every project generates revenue. Then there's the world of estate management. Trust companies, law firms, and financial advisors position themselves as the guardians of your legacy. But each guardian takes a fee. Maintenance costs, account handling charges, document certification, valuation reports. It's all neatly itemized. No one questions it because it feels official, almost sacred. But beneath the polite professionalism lies a business model that depends on constant turnover. In this system, loss is inventory. Making matters worse, this bureaucracy doesn't stop with private paperwork. Governments get their share too. Estate taxes, which were designed to redistribute wealth, often become these complex labyrinths of exemptions and deductions, navigable only by those who can afford the experts. So, the wealthy shield their fortunes with intricate trusts, shell structures, and offshore foundations, while the average family faces the full, unfiltered cost of compliance. And so the cycle deepens. The rich minimize their loss through preparation. The middle class absorbs it through obligation. And the poor? They often vanish from the process altogether, sometimes leaving behind more debt than inheritance. The system isn't built for everyone equally. But there's another layer few of us discuss: the digital estate. What happens to your social media accounts, your cloud storage, your online subscriptions? Each one becomes a miniature battle between privacy, ownership, and access. Tech companies, in their own way, have become managers of death, locking accounts, demanding certificates, and sometimes holding digital memories hostage behind automated emails. Even in the digital age, bureaucracy finds a way to monetize both our presence and our absence. This isn't just about inefficiency. It's an entire infrastructure, and it's built on the brutal assumption that most people won't understand it until they're forced to. By then, they're grieving, vulnerable, and willing to sign whatever it takes to keep the process moving forward. In those vulnerable moments, empathy becomes a transaction. A notary's stamp costs $50. A single page of legal advice can cost hundreds. Each document sealed, each fee paid, is a reminder that the system is still running, long after you've stopped. And yet, amid all this complexity, something extraordinary is happening. The system is constantly improving itself. We're seeing new digital probate services, automated will-writing platforms, and subscription-based legacy management. Each new tool promises to simplify death, but simplicity too comes at a price. The more we try to control the aftermath, the more we feed the machine. It's efficiency disguised as empathy. Maybe that's the real secret. The system doesn't end at the grave because it was never about death in the first place. It's about continuity. It's about ensuring the gears of the economy never stop turning. Death is the one thing every single one of us will face, which makes it the one business that will never, ever run out of customers. And when the paperwork is finally done, when the accounts are settled and the files are archived, another form is printed, another name is entered, another fee is charged. Once upon a time, death was local. A neighbor built your coffin, a town carpenter dug your grave. The service was held in a small chapel, led by a familiar voice. But somewhere along the way, the intimacy of death was replaced by efficiency, and efficiency became an empire. Today, death isn't handled by neighbors. It's managed by corporations. 3 major holding companies control a massive share of the global funeral market. Their names rarely appear on the signs outside your local funeral homes. Instead, they hide behind the same comforting family brands, preserving the illusion of independence while merging the profits under one boardroom. They own casket suppliers, they own crematories, they own flower chains, cemetery land, and pre-need insurance plans. They don't just serve grief, they monetize it. And like every major industry, death now has its metrics: return on investment, customer lifetime value, average revenue per passing. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere, deep within a spreadsheet, your mortality is represented as a growth line. It's not inherently evil, it's efficient. Corporations don't feel emotion, they optimize it. In the United States alone, the death care industry is worth more than $68 billion. Globally, it's expected to double in the coming decades, not because people are dying faster, but because they're paying more. The formula is simple: consolidate small family-owned businesses, standardize pricing, automate logistics, then market it all as care. A single company can own hundreds of funeral homes and crematoriums, yet each operates under its old, comforting local name. You think you're supporting your neighborhood business? You're actually paying into a corporate network traded on Wall Street. It's called brand masking, one of the most effective illusions in modern capitalism. And in an industry where trust is everything, illusion is priceless. Advertising in the grief economy doesn't look like normal marketing. There are no loud jingles or flashing colors. Instead, it's gentle, soothing, designed to feel like comfort. A whispered message: we're here for you. But behind that whisper is data. Algorithms track demographics, income, even obituary databases. Targeted ads for pre-need plans can appear within days of a loved one's passing. Grief has become a searchable metric. Even social networks, in their own way, profit from remembrance. Sponsored tributes, paid memorial pages, virtual candles for a fee. It's digital empathy, monetized one click at a time. And here's the twist: many of these companies don't just manage death, they manage the land beneath it. Cemeteries, for example, are some of the most valuable real estate holdings on Earth. Locked, tax-protected, and expanding year by year. Each plot sold is permanent, a non-renewable product that guarantees scarcity. And scarcity drives price. Some corporations even sell future burial rights in advance, transforming land into long-term assets. The ground itself becomes an investment. Grief becomes geography. Beyond cemeteries, there's another profit frontier: technology. Startups now promise eco-friendly burials, digital immortality, or AI legacies. Every new fear or ethical dilemma becomes a business opportunity. You can upload memories, design holograms, even record messages that your loved ones will receive years after you're gone. It's marketed as innovation, but it's also the monetization of eternity. And corporations are not alone. Governments benefit too. Estate taxes, certifications, and fees for permits and land rights all flow back into public coffers. Death is not just personal, it's infrastructure. The deeper you look, the more you realize there is no end, just continuation. The flow of money doesn't stop when a life ends, it redirects. To the corporation, death is simply another market segment. Steady, predictable, recession-proof. To investors, it's called non-cyclical growth. And to the system, it's perfect. Eternal demand, zero competition. So the next time you walk past a funeral home, remember, it's not just a place of mourning. It's a branch of a global machine designed to turn emotion into equity. But the story doesn't stop there. Because while corporations build wealth from grief, another empire is quietly expanding. An empire not built on mourning, but on control. On shaping how we think about death, money, and even meaning itself. It's the psychological engine that keeps us compliant, afraid to question, conditioned to consume, and comforted by systems that sell us peace while they profit from pain. Stay till the end. Because in the next chapter, we'll step into the final, most unsettling truth. How the world's oldest certainty became the modern world's most permanent business. Every society builds its myths around death. Some promise heaven, some promise rebirth. But in the modern world, the myth has changed. We no longer speak of paradise, we speak of policy. We no longer measure souls, we measure assets. In that transformation, from sacred ritual to scalable business, humanity found a new god: profit. When you step back far enough, you begin to see the cycle. Life feeds the market feeds on loss, and loss in turn creates the next market. From the cradle to the grave, the economy never lets go. We are born into systems that monetize our arrival: diapers, insurance, education, and we exit through systems that monetize our departure: burials, obituaries, estate planning, digital memorials. It's not personal, it's structural. The invisible design of a civilization that never stops collecting. The funeral business is only the surface layer. Beneath it, vast industries rise: law, real estate, insurance, data. Each one takes a piece of your legacy and converts it into liquidity. Even your death certificate, a final bureaucratic confirmation of your existence, generates fees and statistics that feed databases, policies, and market predictions. Somewhere, your death is already a data point in an algorithm predicting next quarter's growth, and while you rest beneath the earth, the world above continues its endless trade. Your belongings become auctions, your home becomes equity, your name becomes paperwork. But the true genius of the system lies in what comes after, the industries of remembrance. Because grief doesn't fade, it transforms. It becomes subscriptions to online memorials. It becomes flowers on automatic delivery. It becomes donation campaigns in the name of those we lost. The market found a way to turn emotion itself into renewable income. Even your digital self, your photos, your social posts, your voice, is stored on servers that charge rent for eternity. In the future, people may talk to AI versions of their loved ones, powered by companies that charge monthly fees to keep them alive. Immortality, redefined as a recurring payment plan. And yet this is not just darkness, it's a revelation. Because when you understand how deeply profit is woven into mortality, you begin to see the pattern everywhere, the silent architecture of power. Death in the modern world isn't just the end, it's continuity. It's the moment your value transfers from your life to someone else's balance sheet. Governments collect inheritance taxes, corporations profit from the process, religions receive donations in your name, media turns tragedy into ratings. It's a web, not designed by any one person, but evolved by every incentive that values money over meaning. But here's the twist, the one truth that even this trillion-dollar ecosystem can't control. For all its efficiency, for all its metrics and profits, there is still something in death that resists ownership, something ancient, something human. Because no amount of marketing can package what people feel when they lose someone. No brand can sell true closure, and no algorithm can replicate the silence of an empty chair. That's the paradox. The more we monetize death, the more it exposes what money can't buy. And maybe, deep down, that's why this industry keeps growing. Because in trying to control the uncontrollable, humanity keeps spending, keeps searching, keeps consuming the illusion of comfort. So when they tell you death is inevitable, remember, so is the business around it. You can't escape it, but you can see it. And once you see it, you can choose to live differently, spend differently. Because understanding the system is the first step to freeing yourself from it. Before you go, not someday, but right now, use your life with intention. Because while others profit from endings, you still control your story's middle. Death may feed the market, but life, real, conscious, uncommodified life is the only thing that can outlast it. If this opened your eyes, don't just scroll away. Show some love, subscribe, like, and share this story. Because more people need to know the truth about how deep this system runs and how much it costs us to never question it.